Okay. So we should be live on Facebook now, or YouTube, excuse me. So I will call to order the Committee of the Whole meeting for Monday, September 21st at 7:02 p.m. The first item on the agenda is the approval of Committee of the Whole meeting minutes of August 17th, 2020. Were there any questions or corrections on those? Hearing none, do we have a motion to approve then?
So moved.
Second.
And all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thanks. And the next item on the agenda is an ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into an agreement with Ferguson Waterworks. It doesn't look like Mike is on. Mayor, would you like to?
Here.
Oh, are you? I just
Yep.
don't. Oh, are you? Chelsea then?
Yes.
Okay, well then I'll turn it over to Mike Reynolds then to walk us through this.
All right. Sorry about the tabulations and information getting out late there. Ferguson Waterworks was chosen. They met all the bid specifications without any deviation. And all the bids were looked at. Nothing was thrown out just because it didn't meet bid specs. But I felt that some of the areas that the other companies deviated were extremely important items. And I just felt that at the end of the day, Ferguson was the best choice for the city.
Was any? Oh, go ahead.
I don't know if there's any specific questions anyone would like to ask, or I went through everything. I did a summary, which I think everyone got. I don't know if everyone had a chance to read. And then I gave my reasoning to why Ferguson was chosen.
I received it this afternoon and did not get a chance to read or review it at all prior to the meeting.
Okay. Well, I'll go through some of my reasons. I won't go through all of them unless you want to hear more. So first, the Ferguson uses a licensed radio frequency as I asked for in the specifications. The reason why this is important is that the lower frequency range that they would operate from, it's able to penetrate obstructions better than the 900 range that everyone else used. It also tends to broadcast further, that'll ensure better reading meter or better quality meter reads, data alerts, data logging information. And really that's why I wanted that licensed radio frequency. Another big one that no one else met except for Ferguson was I put in the specifications a 1.5 watt minimum transmitter on the meters. Ferguson actually exceeded that minimum. They're a 2 watt antenna. Again, this is for signal quality, signal strength. But part of that also, because it has a 2 watt radio transmitter, that means that they have to have better batteries. Just the whole system is more robust. Another big one for me was that the meter interface unit was enclosed in the meter head itself. I feel that's a very important standard. They're the only ones that did it. Everyone else, they either had an antenna that was wired on the side, which for me, that's just another place of failure, another place for water to get in, another place that can get damaged. Or it was attached to the side of the meter. But I feel that everything enclosed in one unit is the best option. And that's why I put it in the specifications. Another big one was in the bid specs, I put in there if a meter company could adapt some of our larger meters, like the 6-inch meters, with like a new antenna or broadcasting antenna, that we would accept that, because some of the meters are less than a year old in big places like Paris, the hospital meter, for example. That one's a little bit older, but the reason why I did that is those meters still have plenty of usable life. They're very expensive. And so if a company could adapt their system to our existing meters, it'd be a great way to save money. Ferguson was able to do that seamlessly, literally unplug one antenna, plug in another. The other meter companies, they were going to have to splice in their antenna, and that would void the warranty on the large meters, because if it gave some type of electric backfeed or something from the antenna attached, it could damage the meter. So I was a little uneasy about that. Plus cutting the wire, that just makes another place that water can infiltrate. So those are just a couple examples. I really weighed everything carefully. I looked to see, if one of the other contractors, they didn't meet the spec, but was the deviation important enough? Was the cost savings enough to justify taking that deviation? And after I went through everything, I really feel that Ferguson is the best option. It gives the best product to the city, best product to the residents, and I feel it's the best choice to go with.
And Mayor, do you mind walking us through, or at least we got this bid, or this information this afternoon, and the question was posed, should we take it to council? And I said, as long as the mayor was behind it, we could at least take it to council for discussion. So do you mind you or Brian kind of walking us through why now instead of November?
Well, as far as that goes, it was talked about a little bit before we came online by a couple of folks. Just as an obvious thing to Dr. Calpe is that the interest rates are very low right now. We have no idea what's ahead of us between now and the election and after it. And we feel we need to get locked in now and get these low rates because they could skyrocket depending how people react to it. The stock market took a big tumble today, but we think waiting until November to do this will cost us quite a bit of money in terms of interest.
Yeah,
And
I think that
we
sounds
did look at this and agreed that this was a good choice. We also vetted it with Mr. Semino, and he also was fine with it.
So the bond component here is for 10 years, right?
yes, that's what we want to do, 10 years.
The life of the meters is 5, or does it leave 5?
We're hoping for about closer to 15 years, but
Yeah,
Yeah.
5 sounds like quite an underestimate.
Mike, could you explain that?
Yeah. So the current meters that are in, they lasted 12, 13 years. We have quite a bit of failures at this point. I don't know. Hopefully none of you council members have gotten any letters to read your meters. If you have, please get in touch with me. But for accounting purposes, we need to get your meters changed. But or auditing reasons, I should say. But we're hoping at least 12 years for the next round. And that's why we financed to 10, or why I'm requesting financing to 10 years.
Remind us of the lifespan of the current meters?
They were installed in end of 2007, 2008, I believe. It was a little bit before me.
And what was their guarantee lifespan?
All meters that we got bids in for, it's full replacement for 10 years, and then it's a descending or reduced trade-in rate after that. Like you might only get on that 11th year, the 11th year, you might only get 30% of the value of the meter as a trade-in if something were to go wrong with it. Under some circumstances, the meters, like the measuring chambers of the meters, they're guaranteed for 20.
So we'll still have these meters by the time we pay off the bond, that's the expectation, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, good.
The big thing in the meters is the battery itself. And the way these are designed, should far exceed the previous, even though they were master meters, but there's been things that were changed.
It is the same type of meter that we already have from the same company.
It's the same brand, yes, but the way it reads is different. The current system is a drive-by system where we physically drive by the meters once a month. which under ideal conditions, Paul, you can attest to this, it only takes a day with one person to do that. This meter system that I spec'd out and got here is, it's called an AMI system. And it's kind of the same technology, but rather than driving around, we just have permanent antennas around the city. And that'll allow us better resolution on meter reads. If a customer calls up and says, why is my bill so big? We can go back to the exact day and hour that whatever leak started for them would be able to tell them when that started.
Mike, I have a question. How do you foresee this affecting your meter readers the people that you currently have in that department? Will their jobs be eliminated, or
Not at all.
will they be doing other duties?
They'd be doing other duties. Like I said, meter reading is actually a very small component of what they do day to day. Like I said, it takes one person one day when these meters were all functioning at 100%. Take them one day to read the whole system. So there's not really any reductions to be had.
And you said the internet connection or where everything would be read would be at City Park. Is that right?
That's where the Ferguson's proposing putting the base station. And then there'll be a few repeaters just to repeat stuff that's further than 2 miles away from City Park Tower.
Is there
And
anything,
repeat the signals back to the base station.
was there anything that needs to be done up at City Park to get that to work in addition, or what's outside of this quote?
No, everything is included in the quote. The way I bid this out, it's turnkey. There's not any added expenses to what they bid. At least there's not supposed to be. And I will refer them back to the bid that they bid on if they try to.
Well, any other questions right now? I think right off the bat, if Mike, if you could be at regular council, our next meeting when we vote on this, just in case there are any questions after everybody has a chance to go through some of the bids or the bid. But outside of that, if there's anything else from council tonight.
But I'll just make a comment. The only way that it would ever take more than a day in the past is when a lot of these batteries would start to fail prematurely. And the way Mike has spec'd this out, it's going to actually supersede the quality of the process.
And if anyone has any questions in the meantime before council meeting, I encourage you to give me a call, come into my office. I'll be happy to talk to any of you about it.
All right. Well, thanks, Mike. Well, if there's no other questions, doesn't look like there is. What is the pleasure of the committee?
Ordinance.
Ordinance.
Thanks. The next item on the agenda is an ordinance to advertise for chemicals for the water and wastewater plants. This is utilities as well. Mr. Muskin.
Yes, this is done every year, but it has to go to a vendor to get the chemicals for the processing of the potable water and wastewater for both departments. This is something that needs to be done quite soon. It was a request for the mayor to contact the vendors and to get this done as soon as possible. So this could be in process well before the end of the year. So there's quite a list of chemicals there are to treat both types of water.
All right. Well, any questions? If there are none, what's the pleasure of the committee?
Ordinance.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is an ordinance to appropriate $45,000 to purchase new sewer cameras. This is also utilities. Mr. Muskin or Mr. Finney?
This is for 2 cameras. The cost is around number 45,000. These cameras are a very important part of the process in distribution. If there's something, a pipe that's offset, that's things aren't flowing properly, these cameras can tell you exactly where it is, how bad it is, if something needs to be done. And this is something that I would very highly recommend. I have actually seen how these are done. It's been several years, but the process is almost exactly the same. So I would actually urge this to get passed for the process to keep its efficiency going. And these are also used for storm drains as well.
Any questions, or Mr. Finney or Kay, anything you want to add?
No.
No, Paul did a good job.
Any questions from council?
Thank you.
All right, well, what's the pleasure of the committee?
Ordinance.
Thanks. The next item on the agenda is an ordinance to purchase police SUV vehicles instead of leasing. This is public health and safety. Ms. Michael?
Hi, yes, we had talked about this in committee. This is something new that we're doing this year compared to how we used to purchase in the past. It's actually a cost savings by doing this. And I don't know if anyone has any questions, but we did talk with Brian and the chief about this in our committee meeting.
Any other questions on this? And if none, well, what's the pleasure of the committee?
Ordinance.
Thanks. Number 7 on the agenda is an ordinance to appropriate $20,000 from the CI fund to replace the decking on the fire station roof. This is also public health and safety.
Yes, and this is something that we've talked about for a while, and we thought it was just a good idea just to go ahead and fix it. This is a project that Chief Chappell had been working on, and we want to hurry up and get this fixed before the winter time comes. So like I said, this is going to be for a full replacement of the roof.
Is there any other questions from council on this? I know we did discuss this at length.
It's necessary.
Yeah. Hearing none, what is the pleasure of the committee?
Ordinance.
Thank you. Number 9 on the agenda is an ordinance to apply for a $500. Oh, excuse me. Let me back up. Number 8 on the agenda is an ordinance to approve the donation of 8 halophane streetlights to Grove City. Is that how you pronounce that?
Yes. It's good. All thing.
Yep. Okay. And I'll go back to number 6. Thank you, Mr. Calfee, for pointing that out. But in the meantime, number 8, this is streets and sidewalks. Mr. Harper, sorry.
Yeah, this is a donation. There was no cost to the city for these lights. They're just taking up space. Grove City can use them. It's exactly what they have in their city. So we're going to donate the lights to them. And I believe they're going to come pick them up as well, if they haven't already.
Fantastic.
They have not until we have an ordinance.
Very good.
Well, any questions on this? Hearing none, what is the pleasure of the committee?
Ordinance.
Ordinance.
Thanks. So I will go back to number 6 since I skipped that. I'm used to having paper in front of me, so it's a little different. But an ordinance to apply for a fire EMS grant through Firehouse Subs. This is public health and safety. So, Ms. Michael.
Yes, that was in regards to the grant. Are we on? Which one were we on? Did we go back to?
Number 6. So the Firehouse Subs grant.
Yeah, the grant, right.
Yeah.
It is for a grant. I believe it's $25,000 and there's no match.
Mr. Chappell, or Chief, you want to fill us in on that?
I can. Yes, the grant is through Firehouse Subs, and there is no matching funds that would need to be appropriated. They recommend to keep the grant application under a $25,000 window.
Right.
They say because of the lack of revenue brought in this year, that they're trying to cut the funding down, but they want to keep the same amount of grants awards being awarded out there. So we're trying to put in for extrication equipment for the new vehicle engine that's going to be coming in June, July of next year. And then that would offset some of the money that we've already have to build the engine itself.
Thanks for that. Any other questions from council on this? Hearing none, what is the pleasure of the committee?
Ordinance.
Ordinance.
Thanks. So bouncing back up to number 9 then, an ordinance to apply for a $500 grant through Ohio North Youth Soccer Program. This is planning, Mr. Karras.
Yeah, so to clarify, there was a little confusion in the planning committee meeting last week. There's actually 2 separate grants. One is for Target. This one is for the Ohio North Soccer. It's for $500. The matching component is that it just can't pay for more than 50%. And it looks like our budget for the soccer program is $1,000. So it's a little confusing because both these grants kind of work together, but it's for $500. And according to the proposal for the grant, we're estimating the total cost at $1,000. So it's right at that 500% or 50%.
Any questions on this? Well, hearing none, what's the pleasure of the committee?
Ordinance.
Thanks. So number 10 is an ordinance to apply for a $1,000 grant through Target for the soccer program. Mr. Karras. Yep.
Yeah, and this is for $1,000. I can't find any matching component. I just know that the budget is well above that. So this one's for $1,000. The Parks and Recs have been pretty successful. They got the archery grant and other grants this year. So let's hope it helps pay for some of the programming that they're providing.
Any questions on this? Well, hearing none, what is the pleasure of the committee?
Ordinance.
Ordinance.
All right, number 11 on the agenda is an ordinance to accept a donation of 300 seed packets from Home Depot. Mr. Karras, this is also planning. Planning.
Right. So this is a donation from Home Depot. They've given us seeds in the past, and we've had some programs where we help plant these seeds throughout the city. The value of the donation is estimated about $534.
It's a lot of seeds.
Sounds like it.
Any questions related to this? What's the pleasure of the committee?
Ordinance.
Number 12 on the agenda is an ordinance to change the current pay range for the administrative assistant position. This is personnel. Mr. Calfee.
This position is the administrative assistant to the mayor and to the service director. It has been at a pay range 12 up until 2 years ago. And this is restoring it to the level that it had been in the past of a pay range 12.
Any questions from council?
Yeah.
Well, hearing none, what is the pleasure of the committee?
Ordinance.
Thanks. So number 13 on the agenda is an ordinance to approve the purchase of cyber insurance for the city computers. This is information systems. Ms. Wood.
Yes. So previously, we've never had additional cyber coverage. We discussed this at committee as to some of the things that it covers. Brian, did you end up getting any more information?
So I did get the info that Mr. Hickey, who came on our meeting, promised. So he did send that to me on Tuesday. And I basically what it is, it's some questionnaires that need to be completed. order to find the right coverage, or at least to market the right coverage for us. So I turned those over to Quality IP on last Tuesday. And I sent them reminders. I have not heard back from them, so I'm going to have to see where they're at with those questionnaires. We really need their help in filling those out. All the real technical specifications. There's parts that I can fill out, but they need to do the real technical IT stuff on it. So until I get that back, we really can't go anywhere else with that.
So is this something we're going to be able to act on in October, since we don't have the proposal for what we're going to get covered, how much it's going to cost, or anything?
I'm thinking probably not, because I haven't even gotten the questionnaires back from them. And even when I do get those back, even if I get them back tomorrow, I'll turn them over to Mr. Hickey. He's going to go out to the market to see what's out there. I'm not sure how quick he can turn that around. I'm not sure if he'll be able to turn that around the next couple of days or not. If they do, I'll definitely share it with you guys so you have it for the council meeting. Everybody's already aware of it, and they can at least go over some options. So I'll try to get on them tomorrow morning and see if they can get that.
It's not like it's an emergency. We haven't had this kind of coverage in a long time, although somebody listening at this moment could be cyber attack before we get the
They're
insurance.
like, oh, they don't have any coverage, yay. And this again, this isn't to prevent any kind of attacks. I mean, we have different systems out there to do that, and we do have some. We're not unprotected, but this is the to cover the financial side of the effect of any of those. So I'll get on Quality IP tomorrow and try to get that pushed through.
Do we want to move this forward? I mean, I have the same reservations, and I think the only caveat I would say is if we do get an answer back, I think it might be a good idea to not only have Quality IP on there, but whoever's providing the insurance to kind of walk us through those options too during the regular council, because we're probably going to have lots of questions, I'm assuming, when those options are presented.
I believe this should be tabled until that information is available.
It's a good question. I don't know what the right answer is. When we got
Sure.
between now and October to mull it over, we just wouldn't have a discussion like this until the actual meeting where we voted. So that could be a little tricky.
Yeah, Cheryl, what do you think?
It's hard because I hate to kind of leave us hanging on it, but we don't have all the information that we need. So I think we're going to need to table it until we have all the information.
Do you want to table it now, or would you rather table it when we get to council?
It's true. We have a few more options if we just let it go forward.
That's true.
Could act sooner, but we obviously wouldn't have to.
Could also table it and then the option of a special meeting.
That's true.
Right, like before council.
Let's move it forward, and if we need to table it, if we don't have the information in time and we're not comfortable, we can table it at council.
Is everyone all right with that?
Yeah, I think that would be a good idea.
Good.
Okay. Well, with that being said, let me ask, what is the pleasure of the committee?
Ordinance.
Thank you. Number 15 on the agenda, as long as I haven't skipped any, is an ordinance. 14, thank you. I had it highlighted too. An ordinance to authorize the issuance and sale of not to exceed $2.1 million of bonds. This is Finance Director, Mr. Huff.
Okay.
Andrew, before we go forward, can I just ask a question? What happened to the insurance policy renewal? I didn't see that on the agenda. Can we talk about that in the committee?
We did.
We
Mhm.
did.
Yeah, it was kind of tied in at the same time with the internet, or the cybersecurity. So maybe it got kind of blended together.
And
Yeah.
Love Insurance was a renewal, correct, Brian?
Correct.
Yes, it's a renewal. Look, last October, they did do an ordinance for that. So whether or not we need one or not, I'm not sure, but they did do one last October.
we do a quick
Amendment?
agenda and insert it here and see if we're okay with moving it forward?
Yeah, well, would anyone like to make an amendment to add the approval of Love Insurance to the committee of the whole? Renewal, thank you. That's the word I was looking for.
Yes, that's fine. I will.
Yeah, I'll second that.
Good idea.
Well, Cheryl or Brian, are you able to provide any more information, or is this something we want to wait to get more information during the regular council meeting?
For the insurance renewal, it was just our regular insurance.
Yeah, it was in the packet for the
Mhm.
meeting last
We
week.
had the tracking sheet. We had all the information.
Correct.
Yes.
I'm pulling. trying to
I think
find
it just
right
got
now.
mixed in.
Yeah.
Well, if we could vote on the motion,
Yeah.
then we can just vote, ask if we want to move it forward.
Yeah, I agree, Rob. I think we did talk about it. And I mean, we had the information and it
We
was a
do have-
renewal.
We do have a copy of the renewal policy too in our committee meeting stuff.
Mhm. I'm okay with moving it forward to council.
You're saying we need a roll though for the
We need a
amendment?
roll call
Roll
for
call,
the
just-
amendment to
Yeah,
the agenda.
right.
This is the downside of not being in the same room as Chelsea. You can't. Chelsea, do you mind calling the roll though? Chelsea?
There goes the lights again. I was in the dark. Ms. Michael,
Yes.
Ms. West, Yes. Ms. Wood,
Yes.
Mr. Moskin,
Yes.
Mr. Karas,
Yes.
Mr. Harper,
Yes.
Mr. Kelfi.
Yes.
Okay. So that item will be added to tonight's agenda with the information that was provided by Cheryl. Is there any other questions in regards to the Love Insurance renewal from council? Hearing none, what is the pleasure of the committee?
Ordinance.
Thank you. Thanks for bringing that up, Rob. So moving on to number 14 then, an ordinance to authorize the issuance and sale of not to exceed $2.1 million of bonds. Brian, back to you, Finance Director.
Okay, so this one goes along with what Mr. Reynolds was presenting earlier. This is just to get the financing for the project that he's proposing. I put the 2.1 million, that we're not stuck on exactly $2.1 million. That's the estimate, that's the amount to not exceed. So we have to set a maximum amount for that. Like Rob said, we're doing 10 years, which is well within the life of these meters. And I was gonna wait till November, but talking to bond counsel and what we talked about tonight, we want to get these done as quick as possible, just to make sure we get these low rates. We don't know what's going to come with this election and all that, so that we just want to get it secured now and save us a lot of money over the long term.
How low is the rate?
We do not, well, it's going to be the same process as that Honeywell debt that we did.
Okay.
And so she's going to take this to the different banks, that Amanda Gordon, who came to the one meeting. And last time it was Chase who had the low bid. Whoever happens to have the low bid this time will, same process, we'll go through it and award it to them.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right, any other questions for Mr. Huff? Hearing none, what is the pleasure of the committee?
Ordinance.
Thank you. Number 15 on the agenda tonight is an ordinance for adjustments to estimated revenue and appropriations. Mr. Huff?
Okay, so this is my first time around on this, but apparently every year, this time of every year, they do a cleanup of the different lines of appropriations. It's a good idea. It's kind of a catch-all. Anything that was not budgeted correctly or needs to be rebudgeted, the revenues that need to be looked at. For instance, one I know that I was looking at last week was parks. I mean, we do have to get those revenues cleaned up and get those to the county. So this will just go through all the different funds, all the different lines, and clean up anything that needs to be adjusted from the annual budget that we see going forward, or that's already in the red. So the schedule will come out. I guess we'll provide that at the next meeting. We're still tweaking that up right now.
All right. Any questions for Mr. Huff? Yeah. Well, hearing none, what is the pleasure of the committee?
Ordinance.
Ordinance.
Thank you. Number 16 on the agenda is an ordinance accepting the amounts and rates determined by the Portage County Budget Commission and authorizing necessary tax levy. Mr. Huff.
Okay. And this is just a compliance that we need to do for the county, and it'll also get tested in the audit. This follows along with the tax budget that we had just passed. The county has us put it together in a certain form, basically saying that we do need these property taxes to support our operations, and they go through and list all the property tax rates out and put it in the format that they see fit for the audit. This is done every year at this time.
Any questions from council?
No.
What is the pleasure of the committee?
Ordinance.
All right, number 17 on the agenda tonight is an ordinance to appropriate the sum of $787.79 for the city's August 2020 unemployment benefits. Mr. Huff.
Okay, and we've been doing these every month, so I think everybody's getting used to them, but this is for the remainder, mostly the parks employees who are still on the unemployment list in August. Looks like a lot of people have dropped off, but there's still a few on there. And the state has been giving us like a partial credit for some of these, so the amounts have come down significantly. All these unemployment ones, and I've said it before, but I think these are all going to go into the CARES grants, so we should be getting reimbursed for these anyway.
Okay, any questions from council? Well, what's the pleasure of the committee?
Ordinance.
Thanks. And the final agenda item tonight, unless I've skipped any, I don't think I have, but the number 18 is the approval of August 2020 accounting transactions. Back to Mr. Huff.
Okay. Yeah, this one's not a real exciting one to finish on. It's just our normal transactions we have to look at every month. This one is an advance from the general fund to the EMS fund, which will get returned as soon as the grant dollars come in. It's a real small one, I think.
I think it was an EMS grant that I think I saw in there.
Exactly.
$3,500.
Cutting until we get that money in, $3,489.18.
Any questions on this from council?
Nothing.
Hearing nothing, what's the pleasure of the committee?
Ordinance.
All right. Well, that does it for the agenda. So I will call to end the Ravenna City Council Committee of the Whole meeting. And we'll see you in 2 weeks.
Very good.
Have a
All
good
right.
night.
Thanks, everybody.
All right.